Would you be the jerk for trying to prevent your wife from going on a Christmas vacation without you? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for kidnapping my baby, causing my husband to have a panic attack? I, 29-year-old female, recently started working again after having my daughter, 4-year-old male. Daycare is too expensive, so my husband, 35-year-old male, reluctantly agreed to stay home. It's important to know that he's been unemployed since 2021. He receives benefits. It's also important to know that he's extremely lazy. He doesn't cook, clean, or help out in any way. I was nervous about leaving her home with her father, but I had no choice. When I came back from work, she was clean and sleeping. The next few times I come home, he was either playing with her, feeding her, or out for a walk with her. I was happy. A few days ago, my neighbor told me that as soon as I leave, the baby cries, and she cries for hours. My neighbor said that she knocked on our door and he finally answered it. He was sleeping. I concluded that he sleeps all day and night. Before I come home, he pretends to care for her. I decided to take the day off work. I left home at my regular time, waited 30 minutes, and then went home. Sure enough, he was knocked out asleep with his stupid noise-canceling headphones on. I went to my daughter's room, scooped her up, and took her to my friend's house. I waited about 2 hours, and I finally called him to tell him I was coming home early. He called me back saying that he can't find the baby. He told me that he was going to call the police, but before he did, I told him what I did. He called me a jerk and a lot of other words too. When I got home, his mother was there calming his nerves because he had a panic attack. He also called me a jerk. My husband decided to sleep at her house. Family members are telling me I'm a terrible person. I know that it was extreme, but I don't know if I would consider myself to be a jerk. I can't really blame OP. Was it worth the scare? Maybe you can argue not, but OP was pretty okay in what they did here in my opinion. The kid was clearly not being cared for at all, and it's pretty horrifying as a parent, so I totally understand where OP's coming from. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for letting my daughter have a peanut butter cake when my nephew is allergic? So my daughter recently turned 7, and for our family part, she asked for a peanut butter and chocolate cake. I agreed. I let my sister know not to bring my nephew, 3, because of his allergy. It's so bad that he can't even be near or breathe in peanut butter particles. She asked if I would change the cake to be just chocolate so that my nephew could come. I said no, that it was my daughter's cake and she can have peanut butter if she wants. She called me unreasonable because my daughter could have had peanut butter cake with her friend party. She didn't have cake with her friends, she just had pizza. She said that my daughter needs to learn to compromise for the sake of family. I told her that I would talk to my daughter, but not to expect a 7-year-old to choose her baby cousin over her favorite cake. My conversation with my daughter played out just like I predicted. And when I told my sister, she called my daughter selfish and ungrateful. She said that I'm a bad parent because I taught her to hate nephew. She threatened that if my nephew wasn't welcome, that neither she nor her husband would come either. I said that was fine because she wasn't welcome either. I then reached out to my brother-in-law to let him know what was going on and to tell him he was still welcome if he wanted to come. He thanked me but said that he would stay home to support my sister. Her party came and went, and my sister is still being very distant and cold. This has me wondering if I was too harsh to her and my nephew, or too soft on my daughter. Am I the jerk? I'm really conflicted here because you want your daughter to be able to have the birthday they want, you want them to be able to have the birthday cake you want, but the nephew is so darn sensitive to this stuff. I just can't really blame OP for wanting to give their daughter exactly what they want, while also trying to look out and, not kill their nephew. I'd like to know what you guys think. Is OP the jerk here? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for walking out of a restaurant and stranding my mom for a few hours after she embarrassed me? I was a shy teenager, so my mom took it upon herself to help me flirt with boys. If a cute boy so much as spoke to me, even if he was working and had to speak to me, she'd try to make me flirt with them or flirt with them on my behalf. It started out as just her pointing out that the boy had smiled at me or looked at my boobs, but when I still wouldn't flirt with them, it escalated all the way up to the point of her flirting with boys on my behalf. And the way she went about it sounded like she was trying to sell a cow. Like, isn't my daughter cute? She hasn't had her first kiss yet. You should ask her out. It's contributed a lot to my anxiety. When I was 17, I had my first panic attack where we went to a cafe where my crush worked because I was so scared my mom was going to harass him. At one point when I was in college, we had a huge fight at home after she told some man I thought he was hot, where I had to give her an ultimatum that if she did it again, I would go completely no contact with her. She did stop for a long time. Now I'm 28 and my relationship of 5 years ended just a few months ago. I'm not over it, and even if I were, I don't want or need her help flirting with men. Still, she started it up again. At first, all she was doing was pointing out when guys might have checked me out or writing my phone number on receipts. This weekend at lunch, our server was my type, around my age, checked out my chest, and laughed at a joke I made. I know he was just doing his job, but speaking with him was the first, heart-pounding moment I've had since my breakup. And although I wasn't going to ask him out or anything, it was nice to feel attraction, I guess. It just made me feel good. Which, of course, my mom noticed and ruined. When he came to check on us, she very loudly said that our food was fine, but that, "My daughter needs more coffee and your phone number." He looked uncomfortable and shuffled back to the kitchen. I was mortified, so I put cash on the table for my meal and walked out of the restaurant without saying a word to her. I drove home without her, which stranded her because she doesn't know how to use Uber, and my dad couldn't pick her up for a few hours. She's been sending me messages through text and our family like, "I forgot you were so sensitive," or "I embarrassed you, but you embarrassed me by making me wait for a ride, so we're even." I reminded her about the ultimatum I gave her years ago, told her I would talk to her when I was ready, and blocked her number. I do have pretty severe anxiety and sometimes overreact to things that aren't that big of a deal. I asked my siblings if they thought I was overreacting, and half think I am and half don't. So I guess since they're split, I'm asking the internet instead. Am I the jerk for overreacting? Is she the jerk for harassing random men for me? Personally, I think OP is definitely not the jerk. It's completely normal to have these boundaries, and it's completely normal to not want to have your mom flirt for you. You don't need it. You've expressed it multiple times to her that you don't need it. She can't respect that. Then she jumps to, "I forgot you were so sensitive." I mean, you fire back at them, and "I forgot you didn't respect me as a person." I would not stop arguing that point with her. This next story is, am I the jerk for yelling at my dad and calling him disgusting for what he said to my wife? My wife, female 29, and I, male 29, have known each other for 10 years. We got married 5 years ago and our families are very close. We became close in college due to shared cultural and familial struggles. We're both Korean American and have lost our Korean parents. My mom died when I was 12, and my wife, who I'll call Jenny's, died when she was 15. Recently, my dad, 68-year-old male, and Jenny's mom, 48-year-old female, announced they've been seeing each other for a year. Of course, I felt grossed out and uncomfortable with the thought of our parents being together, but my wife and I seem to be the only ones who felt this way. I want my dad to be happy, but I don't like how he wants to date the mother of my wife. At Jenny's baby shower, our parents told us that they were getting married, and my dad made a joke about how me and Jenny would now be step-siblings. I was disgusted by how my dad thought this was funny, but what made me angry was when he said he's sad he didn't meet my wife sooner and had to downgrade to an older model. That's when I snapped and started screaming at our parents and asked them to leave. We haven't spoken to our parents, and a lot of family members are telling me I'm the jerk. So, am I the jerk? So, the step-sibling comment is already pretty disgusting. I mean, nobody needs to think about it that way, even if it doesn't actually mean anything. But I agree wholeheartedly that that was a really disgusting comment about downgrading to an older model. I mean, I would reach out to Jenny's mom and inform her that this was said, because that's seriously just such a messed up, disgusting mindset. Our next story is, am I the jerk for forcing my husband to move in with his parents? We recently moved in with my in-laws because I'm 31 weeks pregnant with our first child, and I feel like I need my mother-in-law for support, since I've been pretty terrified the entire third trimester and my parents don't live nearby. My husband didn't want to move in with them, and the only reason he did is because I told him I would go without him and he could stay in our home alone until after the baby is born. His parents are great and they're very close, so that's not why he didn't want to temporarily move in with them. We fought about it a lot before we moved, and we're still arguing about it now because he thinks it wasn't necessary and I'm stressing over nothing, which maybe I am. but that doesn't magically make the stress disappear. He said multiple times that I forced him to move here, but he could have stayed at our house like I said. I can't expect my mother-in-law to visit every day, and I feel better being in a house with other people around. My husband does sometimes work from home, but he's usually holed up in his office. So it's not like he's here anyway, so this is better for me. My in-laws are more than happy to have us here, but my husband is still sulking and gives me an annoyed look whenever his parents say something about his habits that he doesn't like. Am I the jerk? This one makes me really struggle with it because I'm thinking about how OP wants that family support in a very consistent basis, but for the husband, it might not seem like it's necessary. It might seem like they're saying the husband isn't supportive enough. And to be honest, when you're living on your own and you're trying to move forward in your life and you have to work from home sometimes, do you really want to go back to living in your parents' house? I mean, I fully understand that OP is pretty pregnant, but it doesn't really sound like the husband was given much real choice in the matter. What do you guys think? Is it just too much of a fuss from the husband here, or is it understandable? This next story is, am I the jerk for moving up running times to prevent my sister from coming along? I, 17-year-old male, have been taking my brother, 15-year-old male, along with me for runs. We tend to go at 6:30 in the morning, and it's been really relaxing. My brother and I have also got along much better as a result, and I've gotten to know my brother a lot better. The problem is, my younger sister, 13-year-old female, wants to join as well. But she's an absolute brat in terms of personality. She always snitches on my brother and I, and she's treated like the golden child by our parents. She's also really annoying and has low tolerance and patience for anything difficult. Plus, I don't want to have to babysit a kid and run at the same time. My sister started waking up at 6:30 to try and catch us, and she would usually involve our parents. So for about a week, she came running with us. It was pretty bad. She didn't know anything about proper pacing or running form and mechanics, and didn't really know how to expend the least amount of energy with foot placement. She would get mad at us for running so long, and would get annoyed if we talked since it disturbed her rhythm. I finally got tired of this and told my brother that we'll start early. For the next couple of weeks, we left at 4:30ish and just told our sister that we didn't want to run anymore. So she stopped waking up at 6:30, but now my brother's feeling bad and saying that maybe we shouldn't have lied. We should have told her up front she's not welcome, but I didn't really want to have that kind of conversation. I mean, she's 13 years old. What I'm personally missing from this story is whether or not OP and their brother tried to teach her. I mean, I understand it's hard to have patience with a 13-year-old who seems to be bratty, doesn't want to tolerate things, and seems if they don't just immediately get it, they're not going to pick it up later. I mean, at the very least, just be honest about it. It's the kind of thing that hurts, yes, but it hurts much more later if she finds out than it does if you just tell her straight up. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to go to my little sister's high school graduation? I, 24-year-old female, and the oldest of three sisters, 23-year-old female and 17-year-old female. My middle sister has extreme disabilities that required pretty much all of my parents' attention as a kid. Time, money, and extra resources were all given to my middle sister so that she could have doctors, tutors, a special school, etc. From the age of 5, I was pretty much left to raise myself, and when my youngest sister was born, I pretty much raised her too. I struggled a lot in high school, as I also have a mild version of my sister's disability, but it was ignored since hers was much more severe. My parents didn't help me at all. They ignored my concerns about my grades, rejected my request for a tutor, and didn't seem to care at all that I was pretty much failing. I did not even have time to study on my own, as much of my life at home revolved around taking care of my sisters. I managed to graduate and immediately took a retail job that I'm still at today. My youngest sister graduates this weekend, and my parents asked me to attend. The thought literally makes me want to throw up. By the time my youngest sister hit high school, my middle sister no longer lived at home, and she was on state benefits. That meant my parents suddenly had all the time and money in the world, which they used to get my youngest sister in an amazing private high school. They gave her tons of support, and she's graduating with honors and has an offer to attend an Ivy League college. It may be childish, but I do not feel like it is fair at all. I don't hold a grudge against my sister, and I've sent her a graduation card, But the thought of sitting through a whole ceremony and hearing my parents talk about all of her accomplishments is too much. They are extremely upset about the fact that I said I won't go. I haven't talked to my sister yet, but I assume she'll be upset as well. Am I the jerk? This is coming from a place of deep emotional stress and, honestly, neglect over most of their life. I mean, I can't personally blame OP for feeling the way they do. OP feels tossed aside. So showing up to this big event celebrating that child that they feel tossed aside for, I can't blame them for honestly not wanting to go. Our next story is, am I the jerk for forcing my daughter to gut a fish? I'm 38, have 2 daughters, 13 and 10. They are wonderful, and when I was growing up, I had to learn a lot of life skills. My wife and I have been teaching them life skills such as cooking, cleaning, and car maintenance. My oldest is older, so she gets much more hands-on experience. This summer, we went camping and she had to make the fire and tent. Get the feel for it. We went fishing but didn't catch anything. I went to port and I bought a few whole fish, not gutted. We live on the ocean. This is a life skill. It's common to buy fish whole. If she wants to eat fish, she needs to know how to gut them. Took it home and was going to teach her how to process a whole fish. I think this is important to do in understanding. It's a fish and she was grossed out, but I made her do it and then we cooked it. She went to my wife telling her I forced her to gut a fish. This resulted in an argument about forcing the kids to do stuff, but it's a life skill and we forced them to learn how to cook and do laundry, so I don't see the difference. She's mad at me and so is my oldest. Honestly, I think the real issue comes down to, is this essential? Cooking in general, yes, you're going to have to cook. Cleaning, doing your laundry, you're going to have to do that at some point. Are they ever going to need to gut a fish? Like, is it a guaranteeable fact that in their lifetime, they're going to end up in a situation where they need to gut a fish? I'm not saying it's not useful, but if they really don't want to do it, it's not an essential life skill that you have to force your 13-year-old to do. I mean, maybe even just give them a few more years when they're a little bit more older. Maybe they're more capable of handling and witnessing gutting a fish. I mean, I don't know where you live, but unless they're literally completely broke and all they have is a fishing rod for some reason, or they end up on a remote island, they probably don't need that skill. I mean, look at OP themselves. They went and bought the fish. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to not attend my wife's baby shower? Last Saturday, my wife had her baby shower, which turned out to be a very long event from midday until 10 p.m. Prior to this, while we were planning the baby shower and sending out invites, I had initially intended to invite my entire family. However, my wife informed me that the baby shower was going to be female only, which confused me. In my family, I've attended baby showers for all my female relatives, so it felt like this was a cultural difference. Unfortunately, this meant I had to embarrassingly uninvite people after already sending out invitations. Initially, I didn't make a big deal out of it because it was my wife's special day. However, later on, she told me that the no men rule extended to me as well. I thought she was joking, but she was serious, explaining that it's customary in her family to have a ladies-only baby shower. At this point, I became upset. In a baby shower that I was paying for and planning, I was being excluded from my own wife's event in my own home. I found it absurd. The party lasted for about 10 hours, and I was expected to leave my own house for the entire duration. We argued back and forth about this issue. It just seemed ridiculous to me that as her husband, I was not allowed to attend my own wife's baby shower. Her sister overheard our argument and supported my wife's stance, saying that men are typically not invited to baby showers and that my presence would ruin the atmosphere and vibe. This disagreement occurred 3 weeks before the actual baby shower, and even on the day before the event, I tried reasoning with my wife again to let me stay, but she still refused. She also told some of her family members about our argument because I got an angry text from her mother telling me to just listen to what she says since the baby shower is for her and not me, and that she can decide whoever attends or doesn't. I still refuse to leave since it's our home and I'm literally paying for the event. I managed to compromise by just chilling in the backyard where everyone else was inside. My wife still wasn't happy about it though. Am I the jerk here? I mean, I can't really blame OP for being upset if they want to be a part of their own baby's baby shower and they're paying for it and it happens in their house that I assume they're paying for. Also, what do you do in a 10-hour baby shower? Is this like a baby sleepover? Although I do recognize that most baby showers, they usually just do have women there. I don't know, it's hard for me to blame OP when they paid for it, they helped plan it, they want to be a part of it, and they're also being told, kick rocks for 10 hours. Where do you go for 10 hours? You might as well rent a motel room. Our next story is, am I the jerk? Pregnant and husband's single sister takes dibs on baby names. Just had my gender reveal. We are so excited that it's a girl. Immediately afterwards, my husband, 24-year-old's twin sister, who is a committed virgin till marriage and not dating or barely ever dated, sat me down to let me know what girl names she's reserved for her future children, emphasizing that I can't use any one of them. It was quite a lengthy list and mostly family names, which I was also hoping to use. I told her she was out of line given I'm the pregnant one with the impending girl and should be able to choose the name freely. Am I the jerk? I would completely understand if this was a name that really had a lot of meaning to them. You know, maybe even 1 or 2 or 3 names. But you can't just be like, this is my roster of names, don't use any of these. That's just ridiculous and you can beat it. OP is free to pick whatever name they want. Our next story is, am I the jerk for using a wheelchair when I can walk? I, 21-year-old male, have trouble standing for long periods of time and walking long distances. On bad days, it's really hard for me to walk at all. I'm diagnosed with osteoarthritis and I have a birth malformation on my lower spine. I have a manual wheelchair that I use to get around, and especially to be able to sit on the public transport when it's full, and people won't get up since there's nothing wrong with me visually, so I sat in the train with my wheelchair and got up to pay the ticket. I sit back down on my chair, and suddenly a man starts loudly talking to himself about how fakers should just stop messing around and that there's people that can't walk at all or that can't afford a wheelchair. I wasn't going to stand this, so I calmly explained that my body pains are so severe that on bad days they keep me from walking at all. He yelled at me, going on and on about how I was a lying piece of crap that just wanted to have an excuse to sit on the train instead of standing up like everyone else, and that there was no way someone as young as me could have osteoarthritis. When I told him it wasn't just that but also a malformation on my back that I've had since I was born, he said I was selfish because, as he said earlier, there's people doing worse than me and I should be grateful to be able to walk instead of appropriating myself with disabled people's tools. He said something about his friend not having the money to buy a wheelchair in the middle of the argument. So when he mentioned people not being able to buy a wheelchair, I said something along the lines of, "The fact that your friend is freaking poor is not my freaking problem." He looked very offended, called me a rude jerk, and left the train in the next stop. Now, I know it's probably all in my head, but I can't stop thinking about what was said. Am I the jerk for using a wheelchair while still being able to walk on very good days? And was what I said out of line? I know others have it worse than I do, but at the same time, I think me using a tool to get around isn't gonna make stuff worse or better for them. OP's definitely not the jerk. This guy was either projecting, was just jealous, especially ableist. OP had nothing to prove to that guy, and anybody that goes anywhere while in a wheelchair almost certainly should just not be questioned. I mean, how many times have you actually heard of somebody faking using a wheelchair to sit in places? I don't know if those people have ever sat or had to experience sitting around in a wheelchair, but it doesn't exactly feel like a glamorous and relaxing thing to have to do. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to share a room on a school trip? My high school does an overnight trip for their senior class. The rules are boys and girls aren't allowed to share rooms, and kids under 18 have to share a room. I'm 18. I have to use a CPAP machine at night because I have trouble breathing. This is something I'm embarrassed about. Not even my friends know I use one. So I booked my own room using my dad's hotel points. A couple of guys in my class got their own rooms as well. One of my classmates, Sam, wanted to share a room with me. She couldn't find a roommate for the trip, so I was her last hope, otherwise she couldn't go. I told her no because 1, it's my dad's points and there's rules attached, and 2, Sam bullied me a lot as a kid. It got so bad that I still have body issues. I'm still in therapy because of the things she said in the 8th grade still hurt me. Sam later tried to apologize and blames it on her own body dysmorphia, but she's still rude, catty, and just nasty. If she found out about my CPAP, I'm screwed. Sam ended up not going on the trip. Since then, she's been blaming the girls in our year for not helping her. She's gotten so bad that some of our classmates are accusing me of being the jerk. I'm the only girl who had her own room. Why not let Sam stay? I told them that I couldn't, but that's not good anymore. Most of my classmates are upset that I didn't let her come. They think that if I did, Sam would be nicer to us. Am I the jerk? I can't blame anybody for not wanting to room with their longtime bully that was so bad that they had to go to therapy because of them. It's pretty hilarious to me that they think that if OP did let them stay, that Sam would have been nicer to them. Absolutely not. This person already had a past history. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to change my dog's name because my sister-in-law wants to use it? My dog's name is Zahava, which is basically the Hebrew feminine form for the word gold or gilded. I've had her for 6 years. My sister-in-law is pregnant with a girl and now apparently wants to use the name in honor of her grandmother, who also had a Z name. However, she let my husband know that she was uncomfortable having her daughter share the same name as a dog, and then asked if we wouldn't mind changing our dog's name, to which we said absolutely not. She knows her name, her recall is trained to her name, we like her name. So now she's freaking out and saying that it doesn't matter, it's a dog, not a person, she won't know the difference. She will. It'll be embarrassing for her daughter to share a name with an animal. I told her that if she's that worried about it, she could pick a different name. And now she's pissed. Am I and my husband the jerk? OP's definitely not the jerk here. Sorry they didn't have the foresight 6 years in advance that you were going to try to name your baby the dog that's already well established. I also sympathize with OP. It's not trivial retraining a whole brand new name for a dog. Dogs really do learn exactly what their name is and often how to come back when you say those names. Even beyond just actual training, they just kind of pick up on it because you say it so much. You don't want to ditch a word like that works so well, and who wants to rename their dog 6 years into having them? And also, it's not like their grandma is named Zahava. Our next story is, am I the jerk for trying to prevent my wife from going on a tropical Christmas vacation without me? My 31-year-old male, wife's 29-year-old female, father unexpectedly and tragically died back in 2020. He was deeply loved by his family and friends, and hundreds of people mourned his loss. His absolute favorite holiday was Christmas. He was responsible for bringing the Christmas spirit to the family each year. Because of this, his absence has been painfully noticeable during the past 3 Christmases, and has caused my wife's family extreme mental anguish. Therefore, my in-laws recently decided they would leave their cold home during Christmas of 2023 and spend a week in the Caribbean to forget their troubles. My in-laws really like my company, and I've spent the past 7 Christmases with them. I've been invited to join them on this trip, but I'm a firefighter and an EMT, and it's impossible for me to leave my job for 8 days during Christmas. It will likely always be impossible for me to do such a big trip during the holidays until I retire. My in-laws understand and are saddened that I can't get off work, but have decided to still go on vacation without me. I believe the vacation is a bad idea. It seems as though they're running away from their grief instead of dealing with it in a healthy way, such as therapy, which so far all have refused to participate in. I fear they'll all still be miserable and sad on Christmas, but with a change of scenery. I originally tried to be understanding of this trip, but a very close friend, 31-year-old female, of mine, said that her leaving me behind was freaked up, which caused me to think a lot more about it. After a few weeks, I finally told my wife that although I knew she was trying to help her mother escape her sorrows, I felt somewhat abandoned and angry since she knew I would never be able to join her on this trip in the first place. I also told her that I felt that this trip was completely in vain and would not achieve any desired results. I asked if there could be a compromise or if the Caribbean really was the only way to cure this sadness. I was told that I should be more supportive, that this trip is just a one-time thing, and that there was no alternative solution to the problem. I said that I didn't like that answer, but was told that this was just the way things are and there's nothing more that can be done. I should point out that I can, and likely will, spend Christmas with a very close friend and my father's family who all live nearby. So it's not like I'll be left entirely alone for the holidays. However, it's still a bummer to be left behind by my wife on Christmas for a non-urgent reason. I also worry that this could turn into a tradition and that my wife might choose to leave the country each year, leaving me behind every Christmas for the next 25 years until I retire. I don't feel like I have any way to fix this problem, and I have no way to fight it except to say, please don't. I also feel like a real jerk for trying to stop my wife from trying to take care of her family's 3+ years of emotional trauma. Am I the jerk? I think OP would be the jerk if they try to step in this situation. They're trying to celebrate their father or celebrate Christmas together in a different environment that doesn't bring them down, and they're trying to build a new tradition. Now, if it becomes a true yearly thing and OP is consistently being left out, then I think you have a discussion, but that's for next year or even maybe the year after that. Not today and not during this Christmas trip. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.